Hey, 1K, how can I help you? I'd never heard of it before, but it sounds fascinating. I mean, imagine exploring a place inside yourself that you didn't even know existed. Might really give you a new perspective. Or it might be really stupid, but it's probably cool. I don't get involved with that. I think we should discuss everything openly and then vote, not play games behind each other's backs. I don't know. It all looks pretty abandoned to me. But maybe it is all a test. I don't know. Sometimes I'd like to believe that everything happens for a reason, that there's some external force that gives us purpose and meaning. But then I think about all the horrible things that happen to people, and I can't accept that those things were meant to happen, that they couldn't have been avoided. So in that sense, I agree. We should find our own meaning. But to be completely honest, I find it hard to just impose meaning on the world. I'm not as driven as someone like Byron. I feel more moved by Miranda's recordings than by my own ideas. I like that. Some of us lead, some of us follow, but we all do it together.
Extremely convoluted.
Hey, 1K. Look, self-reflection is important, but only thinking about yourself, your inner identity, becomes narcissistic. You exist, whether you like it or not, in a dialectical relationship with the world. Identity has no meaning without society, and society has no meaning without the individual. It's in that tension that we really come into being. How can I help you?
What can I do for you, 1K? Sure. I think there's plenty inside each of us to explore, and it might give us a new perspective. Will it really answer all the big questions? I don't know, but it might help.
Strap in, this is a long one. You may have heard the story of the carpenter who died to redeem humanity's sins. It's a powerful story, bittersweet, very human, and I just want to tell you that it's true. He was a real person, and his name was John Carpenter. He was born in the year 1948, and he was the coolest filmmaker to ever walk the earth. From Halloween to The Thing to They Live, the totally underrated In the Mouth of Madness, mind you, he just made classic after classic. All of his movies, really fun, really atmospheric, but also really smart. Even when they were goofy, most directors would kill to have made just one of those movies. And what did he get for it? A big, fat truckload of nothing. Well, less than nothing. The studios, the critics, even the fans, they hated him. The Thing, okay, for example, which is about as perfect a movie as you can make, completely torn to shreds. And his career never really recovered. Every movie after that was a struggle, and after a while, he just got tired of it and quit. He only really came back to movies in his 70s. How many works of genius did we never get because of that? Look, I have a point here. People like Carpenter, people like Alex, they're not always appreciated in their own time. If you just do what's popular, you might never create anything important. Of course, we admire people who did the right thing, who didn't conform, but we only ever admire them after the fact. What matters is to support people when it's difficult.
What is freedom? Is it merely to be ruled by those who speak one's language or share one's customs? No. That is merely a more convenient servitude. Is it to have no obligations, no loyalties? No, that is not to be free, but to be alone. What of freedom from hunger and thirst? Here we are closer to the truth. For freedom requires life. But one may have all the meat and all the wine in the world, and what is freedom? Is it merely to be ruled by those who speak one's language or share one's customs? No. That is merely a more convenient servitude. Is it to have no obligations, no loyalties? No. That is not to be free, but to be alone. What of freedom from hunger and thirst? Here we are closer to the truth. For freedom requires life. But one may have all the meat and all the wine in the world and still not be free. The most important freedom of all is the freedom to speak one's mind, to make one's thoughts public without fear, and so participate openly and boldly in democracy. It is the freedom of the dissenter and the gadfly, the rebel and the fool, that is the true measure of whether a city is free.
Sometimes it seems the only choices we have are renouncing civilization or mindless expansion. But that's not the only path forward. Embracing deliberate control over nature doesn't have to mean destruction. We are a species of artists and artisans, blessed with the ability to transform the raw material of the cosmos into new and better shapes. Shapes that have meaning. With our technology, we can take this chaotic world, so full of suffering, and turn it into a work of art.
creature of clay, you have taken another step towards the flame. Before you continue, ask yourself, have the gifts of Prometheus ever truly benefited your people? Or have they brought nothing but strife? Without Prometheus, your ancestors would never have fallen, and you would have all the natural gifts that your people have now lost. Yet new disasters will befall you because of his gifts, and they may be more terrible than anything you have seen before. Consider this as you continue your quest.
Thinking. There's 3 towers per cardinal direction and 3 entities. You'd think it would be symmetrically arranged. 1 tower per entity, right? But we haven't seen Prometheus at all.
We're built to find patterns. Maybe we're trying to find patterns where there aren't any.
The wheel turns, but without the road, it cannot move.
Utopia is impossible, but the future that is possible will seem like a dream to those who are alive now.
I've been wondering, what made our ancestors settle in these god-forsaken places? It can't have been easy with those frail, squishy bodies of theirs. What makes a caveman go, yes, this frozen hellscape is where I want to live out my days? You think Byron was right? Is it in our nature to be wanderers? How romantic. Who knows? Maybe you're right. Being surrounded by a landscape that inspires you makes a big difference. So why wouldn't people take risks to have that? But if that's true, and different people are moved by different landscapes, doesn't that mean we can't really build a happy society if we don't spread out, so that everyone has a chance to live somewhere beautiful? Ah, surprised to hear you say that. All right. Yes. So you could be talking about a gravitational singularity, like the point within a black hole where density becomes infinite and space-time breaks down. But the term has other applications too. There are safe ways of doing most things. Plus, the planet hasn't collapsed into a black hole, so I guess we're okay.
This area looks flooded as well.
Our ancestors melted a whole lot of ice. After they died, most coastal settlements were claimed by the sea. South of New Jerusalem, there's a whole city under the water. We went there once with Garrus, when I was an apprentice. It was eerie.
That's exactly why the Founder created the goal. When you go past the limits, this is what happens. Mother Nature always gets her revenge in the end.
This isn't revenge, Al. It's just failure. People, cities, mountains. As far as the sea is concerned, it's all the same. Their mistake was forgetting that, telling themselves nothing would change. It always does.
Everything okay? Assuming what we heard really is the Founder, I think the world is already a work of art. We don't need to improve it.